Ladies and gentlemen, we're here today to talk about Valentines at the Decorative Arts Center of Ohio. Kind of the title of the presentation is Valentines from the late 1700s to the 1950s. And roughly what I'm going to be showing you is in a chronological order. And there are some things that cross boundaries to different time periods, and we'll deal with those kind of separately as we go through. The first decoration I'd like to talk about is this one, and it's about 220 years old. This Valentine would date from about 1790 up to about 1820. It was made in England. It's composed of embossed papers overlaid with a gilded roping. Copper plate put in the writing, likely. It's also possible that it was hand done. We have applied fabric flowers here, perforated lace paper here, and in the center is the most interesting part of this particular Valentine. It's called a puzzle purse. And you can see that we have a morning glory flower hand painted in the center. This will open up all four sections, and then each of those sections would open up again and again. So there's probably about 16 different greetings inside this tiny little square. I'm not going to open it up because I don't believe that it's ever been opened up, and after 200 years, it would probably ruin the Valentine. But I have another puzzle purse right here. This one is from about 1820, and I will open this one up for you. On this puzzle purse Valentine, we have a motto across the top, and we have hand-painted roses. The reverse of it also has what was called a motto or a verse, this one titled Memory, and hand-painted flowers around it. The back and the front are made out of heavier cardboard, but the puzzle on the inside is made out of thin paper. I grew up in the 1950s, and one of the things that the kids did, especially the girls, is they made these little items out of, I think they called them cooties, out of fortune-telling. They made them out of paper, and they could move them back and forth, and they would open up multiple things to answer your question about your future, who your boyfriend was. And this is very similar to that, in the sense that we've opened up the first set of petals, so to speak, and each one has a Valentine motto on it. Here's the next layer. And these actually have some names written down in here. And then this is the final set. So we have, kind of this gold color again with a few names added and Valentine greetings. So in this one little puzzle purse, it opened up and we have 12 on the inside and 2 more on the outside. So we have a total of 14 Valentine's greetings in this one puzzle purse. And as I was telling you about the other one, it would open up much the same way. This Valentine is essentially an elopement proposal. You see the gentleman down here and the lady in her balcony, and the script down here is telling her that he's come to take her away and marry her, and that the carriage, which we see right here, is waiting for them. The verse that's down here would have been printed on the copper plate as well as the picture itself. Then the image was hand watercolored. And then the gentleman could send this just with this verse. But this particular gentleman decided that he would add his own poem. And so on the back, we have where it's from, Bristol, in Bristol, England, February the 8th, or 15th rather, 1823. So this is the oldest dated Valentine that I have in our collection. Here are 4 more Valentines that are from that 1820s time period. The first 2 that we looked at were reasonably in very pristine condition. And I wanted to juxtapose that with some of them that are in less fine condition. These Valentines, again, a lot of them are printed on a coppergate and then hand watercolored, each one of them. This one has a sailor. This one has a gentleman and a lady walking through a garden, a heart. This one has a ring in it. Generally, collectors consider that to be a proposal Valentine. And then another set of individuals here. The interesting thing about this particular one is this is the original envelope. And I always like to find original envelopes because you know who they were sent to and possibly a time period. This one was sent on February the 21st in East Boston. And there's no stamp on it, but you can see that it's marked paid, and 3. So it probably cost 3 cents to mail this to Concord. You can see the creases in this one, how it's been folded up to go into that. This one is a little bit interesting in the sense that it's in bad shape, primarily because each one of these 4 Valentines I purchased, they were still in frames, backed by wood or cardboard. And you can see that wood cardboard framing did not take care of them very well. This has some water stains on it. It's foxed. It's turned brown from sunlight. Ephemeral items like these were not necessarily designed to keep for 220 years. And so taking care of them is an important thing in terms of making sure that they maybe last for another couple hundred years. The paper that these were put on were generally rag paper, non-acidic, but the backings that you put them on, the amount of sunlight that they're given as they hang on walls and things like that have taken their toll on these 4. One of the ways that these Valentines can be preserved in good condition is that some, like the first 2 we saw, were probably put into a hope chest, possibly into a scrapbook. This is an example of a scrapbook page, which again was done out of acid-free paper in those days, and the Valentines are actually glued into it. So over the years, most of the time, this is in a closed scrapbook. It's not getting a lot of sunlight, and it's not getting a lot of wear and tear. And so they're preserved. The only bad thing about it is trying to take them off the scrapbook page. In this section, we're going to look at Valentines that were made between 1840 and 1850. Let's start with this one right here, which is a little bit unusual in the sense that it is a Valentine that would be sent from a lady to a gentleman. Usually we think of Valentines always being sent to ladies, but this one is kind of the reverse. Again, we have a copper plate here. We have the fancy perforated paper on the outside. We have cherubs up here that are hand-painted, hand watercolored, and the Chapel of Love back here, a very Georgian type image. This one is a hidden message Valentine. It's called Cupid's Card Rack. And as we look through, we have a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. This is a unique piece in the sense that there are many hidden messages and items in there. And we'll open this up in just a moment. Underneath each of these flowers, there's a message. Each of these lift up. And you'll also see that there are tiny envelopes here. Each of these envelopes open up, and there are things inside of them. We're only going to open a couple of these. Again, 200 years old, they're a little bit stiff, a little bit cranky. Under Monday is a motto that says, think of me. Under Tuesday, delay me with your presence. Under Wednesday, I live in hope. Under Thursday, all is sunshine where thou art. Under Friday, I love but thee. And under Saturday, Saturday doesn't want to lift up well enough to be able to see it. But we'll just take a look at Friday. And right here, we have the message that I love but thee. And then, as I said, each of these envelopes also open up with a tiny motto on the inside. We're going to open up Saturday, or this is Saturday's. And on the inside, we have the word hope written out in script. Interestingly enough, there is nothing under Sunday. Sunday's for church. It's not for sending Valentines and talking about love. This is another one with a kind of a hidden message. It's got a handwritten inscription down here, perforated paper around the edges, dried flower pieces. These would have been from the millinery shop. But we also have an envelope on the inside that would open up and reveal a letter. Now the letter, whatever it was, is gone out of this one. There's a piece of cardboard in there to keep its shape. One of the interesting things about this particular Valentine is the fact that when you turn it over, we have a cancellation stamp up here of 1843. And you can see that this whole Valentine was folded in to match this envelope. And then there's the stamp, and then it was wax sealed shut. Many people who watch the Georgian and Victorian movies about mail being delivered to the ladies at the mansion. You have a letter, my lady, and they break the seal on it and open up the message. This would be a Valentine message or letter done the same way. This Valentine is called a vinegar or a comic Valentine. They started to be made in the 1820s. This particular one more likely dates from 1850. They were popular Valentines. They were almost always sent anonymously because they are very sarcastic, very nasty in some cases. That's why they were called vinegar. These type of Valentines have been used from the 1820s up until the 1960s. In the 1850s, over 3 million Valentines were mailed in the United States and England, and it's estimated that half of them were like this particular one, a nasty vinegar Valentine. And a lot of them were directed at ladies, but not all. We'll see some as we go through into later years that were also directed at men. One of the problems of early mailing in the United States was that the recipient is the one who had to pay for the postage. And so you go to the post office, you've got a letter. It's going to cost you 3 cents. And you open it up and you get this nasty, caustic Valentine. So they were going back and said, I don't want this, give me my money back. So the Postmaster General of the United States had to issue an edict that once you accepted the mail, you couldn't get your money back. So these three also are of a similar type. They're called a cob Valentine, which is slang or short for cobweb. And these centers are all perforated. And so by pulling on these strings, which I'm going to do for you in just a moment, it opens up to reveal pictures or messages underneath. This is the unusual double cobweb Valentine. It's printed on heavier cardstock. Many happy returns. This particular one, you can tell from the back, has been placed into a scrapbook that we talked about earlier. And that's one of the ways that this delicate mechanism probably was preserved. By lifting the string, you get the image, in this particular case, of a young lady. And by lifting this one, we see another young lady in a pink dress. But you can see how the lace on this paper could be easily ripped apart or damaged. And that's one of the ways that a scrapbook has actually helped preserve this particular Valentine. One of the things that my wife and I like to collect in terms of Valentines are ones that tell a story or are unusual or interesting in some way. This one is interesting in several ways. It's a English-made Valentine from the 1840s. The image on the outside is hand watercolored, and we have the copper gate printing on the outside. And as we've seen in some of the other images, there's nothing on the inside. This one, however, has a very large handwritten poem to this lady. The other interesting thing is that this is from Zanesville, Ohio in 1849. Okay, it's dated February the 14th, 1849. There's 82 lines of a poem here that are addressed to Rebecca. And the poem gets darker and darker and darker as it goes through, because obviously Rebecca is not in love with the gentleman who sent it. And essentially, towards the end, he's hinting at a dark death from unreturned love. This one is a cathedral. Probably like the idea of being a cathedral of love. We have a kissing couple up here and cherubs. At one point in time, everything that looks black on this would have been silver. This is all tarnished silver. And we have a very elaborately embossed and perforated outline on the frame. The cathedral itself will lift, and there's what we call a hidden message underneath. A nice gold frame and a bouquet of flowers. This is not hand-painted. This particular one is a chromolithograph, as is this piece down here. And they've maintained their colors very nicely. This particular piece has the original envelope with it. And that's one of the things, again, that collectors oftentimes like to find. The envelope is highly decorated on both sides. There's no stamp mark on it, so possibly it was hand-delivered. Miss Mary Newkirk, 13th and Arch Streets in Philadelphia. This is a type of Valentine that collectors often refer to as an engagement Valentine. You see this bird with an actual feather on its tail has a gold ring in its mouth. And it appears to be a handwritten inscription right through here. It says, speed on, my pretty bird, and bear this ring away to the one that I sincerely love on Cupid's daily day." This particular card is also an engagement card. You can see that we have a gold ring here, and we have gold here. The dark part again would have been silver, chromolithographs, and a perforated, highly decorative border. We have a stamped letter. Okay, this one went to Martin's Ferry, and it was addressed to Sue S. Slayton. Okay, and this one has the stamp from, if you look at it carefully, Wheeling, Virginia. Now today we know Wheeling, Virginia. Wheeling's in West Virginia. Well, Wheeling was part of Virginia until the Civil War. So in the 1850s, when this was mailed, Wheeling was still a part of that. And Martin's Ferry is just across the river from Wheeling. So this was sent across the river. Now, the interesting part that I found particularly interesting, this came with a note. According to Miss Edna Backwalter, this Valentine came on Pony Express, dated 1851. So a little bit of the family history, which if you watch the Antiques Roadshow, you know a lot of times family history is incorrect. The Pony Express was not running between Wheeling and Martin's Ferry, but it's very likely that this was delivered by a postal rider. And it appears that this cost 10 cents. It has an original stamp of 5 cents on it, and then it was changed to 10 cents, possibly because of its size. This particular piece we're going to open up because it has multiple things on the inside that we're going to look at. And same thing with this particular Valentine, which is what's called a sachet Valentine. It actually has a perfume sachet on the inside that we'll open up to see. This is a card from the 1850s. It's a nice decorative envelope, and it was addressed to Miss Ida Hollenbach, and just simply says addressed. So, and there's no postal marks on it, so perhaps it was hand-delivered or sent by messenger to the house. This is an early Whitney card, who was one of the first American publishers of Valentines, and we can see his mark right here with a red W, and the size, 1.5 is the size on this one. We have perforated paper, we have a chromolithograph in the center, but this is one of the things that makes it the most interesting. It says that it's a color puzzle Valentine, and essentially we have the directions right here that says if you want to know what's in my heart, then you simply follow the colors all the way through. So if you take, for example, the purple color and follow it all the way through, it spells a part of the message. And then if you take the reds and follow it all the way through, and then the greens, and so the message, this is what the message reads. Your love is what the purple says, your love. The red says, renders me. The green says, very happy. The purple then repeats, our love would, and then render me very happy. So a little puzzle for the Valentine. And then this gentleman has also written, handwritten, 2 poems to Ada. Such poems, they could have been created by the sender, but at this time there are also books of poetry that were put out specifically for Valentines. This one, I'll read this one for you. It says, let happiness be ever thine, and peace thy sleep attend. Remember this tribute of respect from one that is your true friend and Valentine. The other one that we were going to look at up close is a sachet Valentine. We have a very lovely rose in the front, lots of gilding. This one actually opens up on the back. This lifts up, this part lifts down, and we have an envelope on the inside. And when the envelope is broken open, the only thing that's there is this tissue paper that was soaked in a perfume. So this was a scented, a sachet. And this is what you could buy. This is a later time period than this particular Valentine, but this is what you could buy to insert into envelopes like this. Cupid's Magic sachet perfume, a dainty bouquet of sweet and lasting perfume. Okay. Now there are several on the inside of this, but 10 cents would have been quite expensive at the time.